Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to today's episode. And Lady Zipper or Paphiopedilum philippinensis and its hybrid. And we have two of the very famous phalaenopsis from the Philippines. This is the phalaenopsis philippinensis and also the Stuartiana from the Philippines. So this is what in front of me. This one here is one of our strand of philippinensis. This is what we call Robininia form. Okay, and this is actually the first broom seeding. Okay, if you see from the fan in the back here, very similar to the topic we had the other week from Orchid. Philippinensis also the fan itself take about 5 years. It's about 2 years shorter than Orchid, but still any of this multi-floral, okay, it take about 5 years from flask. When we talk about flask, we mean out of the baby bottle. So this is why if anybody tell you that 4 to 6 inches of Paphiopedilum philippinensis is a blooming size, wrong. Just go. They are not the truth, except if they are what we call the new Paphiopedilum variety Lavigalium form. Okay, so this is the Lavigalium form, the alba form. Lavigalium form. I think Jamie has an offer on her jumper. She still might still have a couple of them. So this is actually the very new, exciting, the Lavigalium form. Lavigalium form is a type of a form of philippinensis that actually half of the size. So this is how it's going to make a lot of difference. A lot of my breeders and myself, I have been working on this new compact form of philippinensis forma, a variety Lavigalium form, half of the size, but nothing compared. But the regular philippinensis, I think this is what we call the Robininia form. Robininia form is to have a pretty good sized leaf, but the nice thing about Robininia form is the twisted petal. Okay, so this is the twisted petal, and so always, and they like to be root bound. You see here, this is still in the 3-inch pot, 3.5, not even 4-inch. Okay, they love to be. One thing about Paphiopedilum philippinensis species, or by the Orchid species, they hate to be disrupted. Okay, their root system do not like to be disrupted, and they actually do better root bound. Okay, because every time, even if you go repotting at the optimum timing, like right now, it's still kind of a shock to them, and so one of the things that people tend to be overpotting, okay, because a lot of people, I don't know why they read from the internet or whatever, trust me, listen to me. I'm the expert. I grow thousands and thousands of plants. Do not, when you got orchid in the mail, the worst thing you can do is to repot them right away, especially the multi-floral Paphiopedilum. Okay, I'm going to take a peek for you because we're not going to repot them, but I'm very confident the root system is very good, and it's okay to have a root bound. Ooh. You see here? Look at the root system. Okay, this is the natural color of the Paphiopedilum in the bark. Okay, so do not call Karen, our assistant, that you one time we have a customer actually screening Bloody Mary that you send me a dead root system Paphiopedilum. No, this is the natural color of the root system in the bark. Nothing is going to be white and fresh like Catalea root or phalaenopsis root, especially in the bark. Because that is the way God made them. They call this the color of their root system. especially for Paphiopedilum. So always, what happens when you actually overpot your orchid? Okay, there's two ways that can happen when you overpot your, especially philippinenses. Have this one been repotted in the fight? This is actually, if you look at it, some nursery actually offer you by the pot size. You know, this is what we never. The pot size is very misleading. One thing, if I put this in a pot size, in the 4-inch or 5-inch pot, I'm probably gonna mix the flowering, because the first thing the plant is gonna do is to put up more root to fill out the pot. Otherwise, if they don't do that, the potting media never going to dry out. Okay, so it's almost ebb and flow. So all the energy is trying to fill out the root and fill out the pot. And if I don't think you are in the business of growing root in this case. So, and another thing about buying the Paphiopedilum, always buy from the very good reputable source, because most of the good source, professional nursery, you know, we are very careful, even if it's from us, or we always try to use the best water plant, or from a very good strength from the breeder that we trust, because it takes 5 years. It's 5 years to get to the blooming side. You might as well growing the space and the time for something wonderful, you know. And it's almost like getting a puppy, you know. If you get it from the puppy mill, okay, they don't care. All they do is try to crank out the seedling, the size, the parentage of them is the least concern. So that's why you get into a lot of the problem, or a lot of multi-floral that take forever to flower, or if some of the cross section, they don't even flower. Okay, that is a problem, because they do have a genetic problem, just like the puppy mill. Okay, so less is more. I always refer this, less is more. Okay, so this one here, by doing so, I haven't been repotted for about three years, and then we always come up, we use the best quality. In my nursery, I use the Oregon Douglas fir. We do it here, we pasteurize it, and good for 3 years. And because if you follow my podcast before, we always give them a diluted 5-cent solution, okay, 1 teaspoon a month. So it actually will not decompose. You know, you don't have, it kind of clean out the pathogen in the media, so it make the potting mix last longer. You haven't been repotted for about 3 years. 3 years, you can do it. Okay, I have read somewhere, or some people email me that, you know, they read somewhere they had to repot once a year. Well, if you want to spend the money to buy the cheapest bark you can buy, you know, and stay away from pine bark. Pine bark will actually decompose in 6 months. Okay, so imagine the type of orchid don't like to destruct to begin with, and you want to repot them once a year. You set them back a shock to them. So once a year is not the way to treat your orchid. Okay, so, and also when they have a good hybrid, look at how vigorous. Not only that, they give me, the first spoon have 5 flowers. It also had a very strong new growth coming up. And this is the new growth is when this flower finish in about 2 to 3 months. This is the time it's in a small pot. Smaller the pot, the faster they dry out, remember that. So make sure when they orchid are in flower, especially multi-floral Paphiopedilum, you feed them, you water them, and then make sure you feed them like our feeding schedule liniment, that normally it's ultimate fertilizer, every other week. Hey, we eat 3 meals a day. We orchid, we only feed it every other week. So don't starve them. Okay. So this grow is actually going to continue to grow this coming summer. Okay, and actually after the flower finish, then I would actually repot them to a slightly bigger part. So don't worry, we're going to have an entire segment on repotting and dividing multi-floral. It's a bit early right now. Okay, so this is the wonderful, wonderful species of the Paphiopedilum. And can we do a cross-up on the lip and the dorsal? Yeah, and versus the Orchid. This is why Orchid on the right-hand side, they call it king of the rough. Okay, and this is philippinense. So obviously, the entry level for the first, if you ever want to grow multi-floral hybrid, okay, when the matching between philippinense and Orchid is the primary hybrid we call sense-written. So this is the mama, well this is the mother and father, and this is the first bloom of sense-written. And the nice thing about sense-written, Orchid it's on the higher elevation, higher altitude, so maybe about 1,500 mile. So it need a little bit chill before flower, but the philippinense is pretty much on the sea level in the Philippines. So this is a good marriage between this. So this is a primary hybrid called sense-written. So sense-written is a good entry level for if you ever want to flower them. And we do have the NF number in front of it. We do have this remake of the sense-written. So this year, I'm actually going to remake the sense-written again. I just always love to remake sense-written. And this will be a very good dark petal robininiform. And there's always different combination. And sense-written is another wonderful hybrid. This is I grew it a little bit too dark this year because this year we had so much rain in California. Things got so cloudy. The late multi-floral Paphiopedilum in the winter time before they flower, when they're spiking up, they actually can take as much light as the Catalea, 2,000 to 3,000 foot candle in the winter time, because winter time is bright and cool. So, you know, you might have 3,000 foot candle, but the temperature might be 65 degrees or 70 degrees. So really, they can really build it up. And I can also tell, we also go a little bit too shady. I don't like the leaf to be this dark green. Okay, so this is what happens when you go in really shady and dark. The leaf will stretch up a little bit longer, and your flower count only has 3. Versus this philippinense, notice the difference on the leaf color. Okay, the size like this on the first bloom should be 5 flowers, but it was growing. Forgot to move it away from the phalaenopsis because in the summertime, we really hot and high intensity like California light. Same thing with Florida. So we go in shadier in the winter with the phalaenopsis, but forgot to move it to brighter area before they flower. So see the difference? When you go them brighter, the leaf is more compact and more firm. And this is the case of going into shady. Okay. Oh, this is why I mentioned the other time that sometimes the leaf span can be misleading, because sometimes people will say, "Well, what is your leaf span?" And if I want to stretch the leaf, okay, I would just go down really dark, and then do a lot of high nitrogen, and just stretch the leaf. But then it's not good for the plant, because the plant will be really stretched out, soft, limpy, and then more susceptible to disease. Because look how firm this is up, nice and firm. Okay, so this is actually, remember, philippinense is very, very important in building block for the primary. And the nice thing about philippinense, use it for inbreeding also. is the increase of flower count, because Rothschild Dendrobium does not get to 5 flower and then really old like this plant. Okay, so philippinensis help to increase the number of flower on the multi-floral, and also, yes, here's a perfect example. This hybrid here is been registered, or actually haven't been registered. This is the perfect example. This is actually is addicted philip. So it's adopted by philippinensis and onto Rothschild Dendrobium. Okay, so it's 3 species. So when we have the species together, this is primary. There's what we call species vigors. And this is what happened with the result of the philippinensis. Philippinensis help to cut down the size of the leaf versus the Rothschild Dendrobium over here. So it might only give you, well, this is the first bloom, 2 flowers, not that bad. The plant is about 6 years old, okay? Got a nice new friend coming up for next year. So this is the blooming size. So anybody telling you that this size is blooming size, no, that's what we call near blooming size. Okay, so always when you buy them, always buy blooming size. If you have a breeder you never worked with before, always ask how old is the plant. You know, if they do quality on plant, they should know how old is the plant. So you can actually gauge how the maturity of the plant by the leaf span, and also how old the outer flask. And technically, anything is like 30 leaf span, about 12 inches, 15 inches, minimum 12 inches, 15 inches leaf span is blooming size. So you can actually tell this is 3 species. This is actually the Rothschild Dendrobium, really dominant on the size. And the philippinensis increased the beautiful dorsal. The pouch is a little bit lighter in color, but it's still a very, very nice present. And I like the foliage on this. This haven't been registered yet. And I hope I think this is the hybrid. Yes, this is my hybrid by my cousin, James Fang at Hilo Orchid Farm. He's a wonderful breeder. And this is actually a very, very nice hybrid. I like the way they grow habit. So we do a lot of breeding indirectly or cooperation with some of the breeders in Taiwan, in Asia. We also trying to work with Tokyo Orchid, like you have making before. And so this is actually a very good. So remember, philippinensis is a wonderful. So there's a philippinensis, and then you have the philippinensis robinini form with like this one. The petals still stretching. Okay, then you have the philippinensis lavigata form. A lavigata form, you have this color, compact, and you also have the miniature alba form. Jamie gave me the signs that she's tired. Anyway, about the lavigata form, I think Jamie still had a couple of leaves. This is first bloom. But this is just as old as this plant. So this is very exciting because in the 70s, in the 80s, there's no this color form. That goes along is the alba form. So I'm building a lot of the alba multi-floral in the background right now. So we're going to go over this summer or next year. So albalistic is amazing, amazing, and because it really fit the modern hobbyist collection. Smaller collections. Nobody has a really big space, and this type of breeding, even the philippinensis itself, is perfect for under light. It doesn't get as tall as some of the big, gigantic, the Indonesia form. All right. So, the Rothschild Dendrobium, mite, thread do not like them because they are leathery, they're succulent leaf, they're too hard to chew. Okay, they will move on to other house plant first before it's just too hard for them to chew on. Scale, rarely have scale. Many people don't like them because it's not juicy enough for them. So the only thing about it might be possible crown rot because the way the leaf shape is very easy for the water to stand in the crown. So always water early in the morning. Okay, for your price plant, always at the end of the day before you go to bed, always make sure the water is if you go inside the house and the air circulation is not enough, always on your your light stand, for example, always make sure there's no water stay inside the crown. If not, just get some tissue paper and suck it up. And other than that, this is actually during the vegetative stage in the summertime between July and November is when their vegetation stage. Just like all the multi-floral, the Paphiopedilum have root hair. They do not like to dry out. So if you're going to go on vacation for 2 weeks, just put them in a saucer in a dish of water. Okay, don't let them the house sitter to water them because sometimes they all tend to water every single day. It's okay to let them sit in the water, that Paphiopedilum, for a couple of weeks. It will not kill them because that actually the lady zipper, Paphiopedilum, the root hair do not like to dry out. When they dry out, it's very, very hard to get it recuperate again. And make it dry again every other week, especially when they are in flower, when they start spiking on them. And well, this is the, look at this. Okay, so this is actually very fun. We have another late blooming rough. I think I showed this before. This is the case of when the spike are developing underwater. So look at how we water them a lot, shadier, so they are stretching now. So you can actually for the show, for example, if they are the philippinenses are in spike, there are some technique. For example, if you like, they just close a curtain. Okay, when they are spiking, just in spiking stage, put them in the darker area, maybe north side of the greenhouse or north side of the house. The temporary 1 or 2 week reduced light, you're gonna stretch this internode higher, so they or may make it presentable. If you want to make the spike shorter, guess what? Just leave it alone in where your cattleya light. Through bright and strong light, you're going to make the spike more compact. So this is a little bit of a horticulture technique you can stretch, but do not remember to move it back to where they are, or vice versa on the Paphiopedilum rochaderianum and philippinensis. And also, when they are in flower, even if you go outdoor, bring into the house, the indoor temperature, I know a lot of people in Florida like to leave it outside, but they're more susceptible to water or sprinkle head. The sprinkle head in the water, in the pouch, we're going to rot the flower, so they're not going to last as long. Put them in the house to enjoy them, because in the house you have air conditioning, the temperature is more constant. So they usually will last extra minimum 6 weeks versus outside. Okay, and other than that, I think Paphiopedilum philippinensis, it's very easy to grow, and actually not as expensive versus some other species that take longer, that extra 2 years to grow. And the primary hybrid, that is sensitant, okay, is a very good one, entry level. And then it's lots of from here you can use the same technique to move on to some of the more exotic or more complex multi-floral on this. So when I say more complex multi-floral, is more like, you know, some of this type, okay? They're getting bigger and bigger. So this is actually a very exciting time. I think there's a renewed excitement and also the interest in the multi-floral again, because a lot of the multi-floral and the philippinensis was making the 70 and 80. At the time, they were just all imported species come to California. Most of the primary hybrid was made in California. But I know a lot of people in Asia are actually, because they have access to more plant material, they can flower even more. So they actually do more selecting and on the breeding. So we are going to see a new wave of newer and better multi-floral coming to the market. Okay, and other than that, yes.
Donna is asking, is the cold tolerance similar to the Roths?
It can be. It's not well, even raw go down to about 50. I don't think philippinenses can go down to 50, only if you do not water them, and just leave it alone and do not water them, because what happens when you all the plant material, there's always an exception. When you come to my nursery, I'm going to show you an area we have outside that just a cover on the top. The summer get up to over 100 degrees. In the wintertime, get down to about 30, 40,
38.
38. I have this height. I have 38 degrees. I have sweetened outside before, but I put it under the bench where they never get water, and they survive. So there's always exception. But the key point is not to water it. What happens when you water the plant? Because there's plenty of moisture in the air when it's that cold. So the plant actually, the metabolism slows down. If you water it, the plant, the root area is going to be really, really moist. And then when it becomes very, when they're cold, it becomes very icy. So the root temperature is going to be really cold, sometimes even colder than the air temperature. So, but usually, they do have a degree of cold tolerance on them, especially if you feed them a good fertilizer, and they are strong. The plant are firm on them. Okay, so there's always an exception, but it can be done, but not for beginner.